So, as we all know, especially if you watched my last video, thanks for the support, the Phantom characters are pretty boring. In my last video, I did 4 of the Phantoms, so I figured I'd do the rest in this video, but, you know, there's only 2 left, so that would be a pretty nothing video. But there's other characters I can do, especially one that might be the most hated design in the franchise. You know, I'll talk about him last, gotta keep you waiting. Either way, I'm just gonna jump right in since this is a sequel. You can watch the last video if you wanted to hear more in-depth thoughts. Also, before I start, I just wanted to say that these videos have been doing so good, especially by my standards, that I'm actually pretty close to getting monetized. So if y'all want to contribute to that, you can, you know, like the video, subscribe, watch my videos. You know how YouTube works, all that stuff. Jumping right into the first design, there was a character that was weirdly left out of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. You know, we have Phantom versions of Freddy, Chica, and Foxy, but there was never a Phantom Bonnie. I wonder why that is. When most people make a Phantom Bonnie design, they just make him a recolor of Withered or Classic Bonnie, because, well, that's what the original Phantoms are. So I thought I might as well make one that fits in with my more unique Phantoms. Here he is. As you can see, he does take some cues proportion-wise from Withered Bonnie, but I made his jaw smaller and gave him just, yeah, a bit more shape. I also made him pretty undamaged overall. I just made his ear and chest to be incredibly damaged to keep him consistent with my other Phantoms. You know, they have like large chunks of damage taken out of them, but overall they're mostly clean. I also tried to make his color a little bluer than the rest of the Phantoms, but in the end of it just ended up looking more gray than anything. There isn't much else to say about him. He's pretty simple and a clean design, but I like how he turned out. Next off, we have a really simple design, the Phantom Puppet. I really didn't know what to do with him until I thought of FNaF World of all things. In that game, the Phantom Puppet was given teeth to, I guess, make his mouth a bit more noticeable, so I thought that was the way to go. So here's what I came up with. I made his body entirely black and made him look just a tiny bit more skeletal. I also added just a single button there like I did with my Freddy and Balloon Boy designs, just to add a little bit more visual interest, but I sure changed up the head a lot. I remember seeing someone say how they thought that the Phantom Puppet had like a big hole in his mask due to how the shadows worked on him. So I thought that would be a neat idea to actually put in the design. Looking back, it might have been a bit too try-hard, but it was a proof of concept more than anything else. After removing his rosy cheeks to make it just a bit more sleeker, I was done. It's a cool design, but I think it's pretty clear that I didn't have much passion behind it. Speaking of no passion, we have Phantom Mangle. I have no clue why, but I just really didn't want to redesign this character. I do not care for her at all. But you know, it would just be a bit weird if I redesigned all the other Phantoms without doing her. And he seems like he'd be the easiest to do. I already made a semi-unique endoskeleton for the Phantoms, so might as well show it off through Mangle. So that's kinda what I did. Here's the finished design, and after drawing it, I can say I actually had a lot of fun drawing this. I didn't really want to do the same 3-legged design as the original Mangle, so I did what I did with all the other Phantoms and basically just did a subtle new take on the design. This design wouldn't really ever stand at all, it would just like hang from ceilings and all that and just be like an unrecognizable mess. I also added a hook because, I mean, Funtime Foxy probably had a hook, so it makes sense. As for the head, again, I just did a different take by putting the cheek fluffs like upwards and giving it a more distinct silhouette apart from Foxy. I also added just like a little bit of damage, removed the cheeks, gave her a thicker jaw, but after that I was done with the design. Overall, I really didn't expect to like this design as much as I did. Finally, we have the one you've all been waiting for, the main villain of the franchise, William Afton, but not from the 3rd game, the 6th game where one of 3 things happened. Either he got a new suit because his old one was damaged, his suit magically changed, or Scott Cawthon didn't want to use the same model for the same character twice with no changes. Either way, people didn't like this choice, and you can probably tell why. Also, if you're watching this, you've probably watched the 2 videos by the Oof Troop that covers this design in detail, so I'm not going to bore you with it. I'm just going to say that I love this design personally. I'm all for switching characters up in this series just for the sake of it, because they're robots in suits, so why not? I've always enjoyed how much this design switches things up, but he's certainly flawed, so for my design, I wanted to keep everything that separates Scrap Trap from his original counterpart. Here's what I came up with. As you can see, I kept basically all of his details. I just tried to polish him up and ground him a little. First off, I fixed my biggest issue with him. His damage was just so blocky and unfocused. There are hundreds of tiny little blocky holes in his body which just don't look good. So I gave him fewer larger spots of damage, which also smoothed out his wrinkles. This led me to exaggerate the damage he has on his right shoulder and left side. As for the endoskeleton, the original design had barely any robotic parts, which just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so I tried to strike a better balance between organic and robotic. However, I didn't give him like a detailed skeleton or organs or whatever, because I wanted to keep this design one that could reasonably be in the games. In fact, that's always been a goal I've had for these designs, which is why I've never really gone over the top with anything. Anyways, for the head, while I made the mask a little smaller, I made the head inside much smaller to make it more proportionate with the body. But everything else I've done has been done 1,000 times before, so I'm just gonna leave that there. Overall, I really liked this design. It was pretty fun finally being able to make my definitive design for this guy. Overall, I'm really happy with these designs. When I started this series, I didn't have any plans at all to redesign Scrap Trap due to how many redesigns that there are already out there of him, but in the end, I'm definitely happy I did. I think these designs turned out really nice, even if they are a bit simple. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next. I think I might want to redesign some characters from the Help Wanted games or something. But after that, there are only a few more characters I have ideas for. So it sucks to say this, but after a few more of these videos, I'm gonna be done with this series. But I still have a few other ideas outside of redesigning characters. Of course, if you know me, you know the main thing on this channel is stop motion animation, so every now and again you'll see one of those pop up, but I'm really enjoying this new style of content where I can go really in depth on my creative choices, but hey, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Also, apparently like 91% of the people who watch me aren't subscribed, so do that, I guess. That would be cool.